The millionaire's son humiliated the waitress, but a minute later he fell to his knees because of. Alexander Kingston's cruel laughter cut through the glittering New York charity gala like a knife. All eyes turned to watch the billionaire businessman mockingly refuse a dance with Emily Bennett, the award-winning economist who happened to be obese. "I don't dance with women who can't see their own feet," he sneered, champagne glass tilted carelessly in his manicured hand. The crowd's uncomfortable titters died as William Crawford stepped forward, his smile sharp as broken glass. "Tell me," Alex Will's voice carried across the sudden silence, "have you ever wondered what it feels like to be on the other side of your cruelty?" Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The crystal chandeliers of the Pierre Hotel's ballroom cast dancing shadows across Alexander Kingston's perfectly chiseled face as he turned to face Will Crawford. The two men stood apart from the whispering crowd, their expensive tuxedos marking them as members of New York's elite. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Will Alex's voice carried that signature note of condescension that had helped him close billion-dollar deals. "Do enlighten me." Will swirled his champagne thoughtfully, his eyes never leaving Alex's face. "A bet, old friend. One that might actually challenge you, unlike those corporate takeovers you're so fond of." "You know I never turned down a good wager." Alex's smile didn't reach his eyes, though I doubt you could offer anything interesting enough. "Marry her." Will's words fell like stones into a still pond. "Marry Emily Bennett and stay married for 6 months." Alex's laughter echoed through the ballroom. "The fat economist. Have you lost your mind, Will?" Scared, Will's smile grew sharper. "I'll make it worth your while. $10 million if you can do it. But here's the catch: you have to treat her like a real wife. No hidden apartments, no mistresses, no public humiliation." The crowd around them had grown, Manhattan's elite drawn to the scent of scandal like sharks to blood. Alex straightened his Italian silk tie, mind already calculating angles and possibilities. "And what's to stop me from just paying her off to play along?" Because Will's voice dropped lower, "Emily Bennett isn't like the women you usually deal with. She can't be bought. That's what makes this interesting." Alex studied Will's face, searching for the trap he knew must be there. They'd known each other since Harvard Business School, and Will Crawford never made a bet he wasn't certain to win. "Why her specifically?" Alex asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. "Because she's everything you claim to despise. Overweight, yes, but also brilliant, independent, and completely unimpressed by your wealth. She has a PhD in economics from Yale, runs a successful non-profit, and couldn't care less about your social status. In short, she's your worst nightmare." Alex's jaw tightened. The annual charity gala had become unbearably interesting, and he could feel every eye in the room on him. To refuse would make him appear weak, afraid. Alexander Kingston was never afraid. "Fine," he said finally. 6 months, $10 million, but I want it in writing." Will's smile turned triumphant. "I'll have the papers drawn up tomorrow, but first you might want to actually meet your future wife." The first meeting was arranged at Le Bernardin, Alex's favorite restaurant. He arrived early, claiming his usual table, and ordering a bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild 1982. If he was going to endure this circus, he'd do it with proper wine. Emily Bennett arrived exactly on time, and Alex's first close-up look at her made him wince internally. She was even larger than he'd remembered from the gala, wearing a simple black dress that made no attempt to hide her size. Yet she moved with unexpected grace, and her eyes, a striking shade of green, met his without a hint of shame or apology. "Mr. Kingston," she said, taking her seat with dignity, "I assume the wine is excellent." "Only the best," he replied automatically, surprised by her cultured voice and direct gaze. "Like everything in your life, I suppose," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Shall we discuss terms?" Alex blinked. Terms? For this farce of a marriage you've agreed to. Don't look so surprised. Did you think Will wouldn't tell me about the bet? I know exactly what this is, and I have conditions of my own. For the first time in years, Alex felt wrong-footed. You're willing to go along with this? Emily leaned forward slightly. Mr. Kingston, let me be very clear. I'm not some desperate woman you can buy with promises of luxury. I have my own money, my own career, and my own reasons for agreeing to this arrangement. The question is, are you prepared for what that means? And what exactly does it mean? It means this marriage will be a partnership of equals. You don't control me, dictate my behavior, or expect me to play the adoring wife in public. I maintain my career, my independence, and my dignity. In return, I'll fulfill the terms of your bet without scandal. Alex studied her face, looking for signs of deception or hidden motives. He found none. Only that steady, challenging gaze that made him strangely uncomfortable. Why would you agree to this at all? He asked finally. Emily's smile turned enigmatic. Perhaps I have my own bet to win, Mr. Kingston. Or perhaps I simply want to see if the great Alexander Kingston can handle 6 months with a woman he can't control. The waiter approached with menus, but Alex waved him away. This conversation demanded his full attention. You realize this won't be easy, he said. The media, the social circles I move in? Are you worried about being seen with someone like me? Emily's voice carried a dangerous edge. Afraid I'll embarrass you at your fancy parties? I'm being realistic. My world can be cruel. Trust me, Mr. Kingston, I know exactly how cruel your world can be. The question is, do you have the courage to face it with someone who doesn't fit your perfect image? Alex felt a flutter of something unfamiliar in his chest, not quite anxiety, not quite excitement. This woman was nothing like he'd expected. There was no desperation, no eagerness to please. Instead, she radiated a quiet confidence that both irritated and intrigued him. 6 months, he said finally. We'll need a prenup. Already handled. Will's lawyers drew up the papers this morning. I've made my additions. You'll find them quite reasonable. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick envelope, sliding it across the table. Alex picked it up, his manicured fingers brushing against hers for a moment. You move fast, he observed. Time is precious, Mr. Kingston, particularly when it's being spent on something as artificial as this arrangement. Shall we order? I hear the sea bass here is exceptional. As they proceeded with dinner, Alex found himself watching Emily with growing curiosity. She ate without apology or self-consciousness, carried herself with grace, and displayed a sharp wit that occasionally made him fight back a smile. It was unsettling. By the time dessert arrived, they had hammered out the basic framework of their arrangement. A quick ceremony sharing his penthouse, public appearances together, and absolute discretion about the true nature of their relationship. One last thing Emily said as she prepared to leave. Don't mistake my agreement to this arrangement for weakness or desperation, Mr. Kingston. I'm not here to be saved, changed, or controlled. Remember that, and we might just make it through these 6 months without destroying each other. She stood, gathering her things with fluid grace. Good evening, Mr. Kingston. I'll have my assistant coordinate with yours about the wedding details. Alex watched her walk away, that strange flutter in his chest returning. For the first time in years, he had the unsettling feeling that he might have underestimated his opponent. Whatever game Will Crawford was playing, it was clearly more complex than a simple bet. He pulled out his phone to call his lawyer. He needed to know everything there was to know about Emily Bennett. Something told him he was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle, and Alexander Kingston hated missing anything. The wedding of Alexander Kingston and Emily Bennett took place on a crisp October morning, with all the warmth of a corporate merger. The ceremony, held in the marble-columned greatness of St. Patrick's Cathedral, was attended by New York's elite not out of celebration, but curiosity. They came to witness what the society columns had dubbed the odd couple of Manhattan. Emily wore a simple Vera Wang gown that made no attempts to disguise her size, her head held high as she walked down the aisle alone. She had refused Alex's offer to hire someone to give her away, stating simply, "I give myself." Alex stood at the altar, his Tom Ford tuxedo impeccable, his expression carefully neutral. Yet something flickered in his eyes when Emily approached, perhaps surprise at how gracefully she carried herself, or unease at the quiet confidence in her green eyes. The vows were brief, traditional. No personal words were exchanged, no tears shed. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, their kiss was chaste, clinical. The assembled crowd applauded politely, their whispers already starting. Poor Alex, what did he get himself into? Must be some kind of publicity stunt. Did you see how she didn't even try to look smaller in that dress? The reception was held at the Plaza, a lavish affair that spoke more of Alex's wealth than any genuine celebration. Emily moved through the crowd with surprising ease, engaging effortlessly with business moguls and socialites alike. Her Yale education and sharp wit became apparent in every conversation, leaving many guests unsure whether to be impressed or unsettled. "Your wife is," unexpected, commented Michael Thompson, Alex's lawyer, as they watched Emily discuss economic theory with the Federal Reserve chairman. "Indeed," Alex replied tersely, sipping his scotch. The real test began when they arrived at Alex's penthouse that evening. The sprawling apartment on the 60th floor of a Central Park West building was a testament to luxury and precision. Everything was sleek, modern, and perfectly arranged, much like Alex himself. Emily walked through the space slowly, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the minimalist furniture, the abstract art worth millions. "Very you," she commented. "All surface, no soul." Alex's jaw tightened. "Your room is down the hall. I had it prepared according to standard sizing." "If you're about to make a comment about my size," Emily cut in smoothly, "perhaps reconsider. We may be married, but I'm not your project to fix." She walked to the windows, looking out over the glittering city. "I'll take the guest room at the end of the hall. It has its own bathroom and a decent view. I assume you've had my things moved there." Your assistant coordinated with the staff. Alex moved to his private bar, pouring another scotch. "Would you like a drink?" "No, thank you. I don't drink alcohol." "Another disappointment for you to add to your list, I'm sure." The first week of their marriage set the tone for what was to come. Emily maintained her own schedule, leaving early for her non-profit organization and often returning late. She ate what she wanted, when she wanted, completely ignoring Alex's pointed comments about the penthouse chef's ability to prepare healthier options. Alex found himself increasingly frustrated by his inability to influence her behavior. Every subtle dig about her weight, every suggested personal trainer, every left-out magazine article about weight loss was met with the same serene smile and complete disregard. "You're not even trying," he snapped one evening, finding her eating pasta in the kitchen. Emily looked up from her meal, unruffled. "Trying to what exactly? Become the sort of wife you think you deserve? Transform myself to meet your standards?" She twirled more pasta onto her fork. "That wasn't part of our agreement." The agreement was to act like a real married couple. "No, the agreement was to maintain the appearance of a marriage while I retain my independence. Don't confuse the two." And their public appearances together became a complex dance. Emily attended required social functions with grace, but refused to play the adoring wife. She engaged intelligently in business discussions, often overshadowing Alex with her economic insights. More disturbing to him, some people actually seemed to enjoy her company. "Your wife is fascinating," said Janet Morrison, one of his biggest investors, at a charity gala. "Her ideas about sustainable microfinance in developing countries are revolutionary. You're a lucky man, Alex." But Alex didn't feel lucky. He felt increasingly off balance, as if the carefully controlled world he'd built was shifting beneath his feet. Emily's presence in his home, her quiet defiance, her complete immunity to his usual tactics of control and manipulation, it all unsettled him deeply. 1 month into their marriage, he attempted a new strategy. "I've arranged a dinner party," he announced over breakfast. "Tomorrow night. Important clients." Emily glanced up from her newspaper. "I have a board meeting tomorrow evening." "Reschedule it." "No." The simple refusal hung in the air between them. Alex gripped his coffee cup tighter. "These are crucial business connections." "And my work is equally crucial," Emily replied calmly. "I'm sure you'll manage to charm them without me. You've had plenty of practice." This isn't how marriage works. Emily folded her newspaper deliberately. "And what would you know about how marriage works, Alex? Your relationships have always been transactions, women you can control through money or social pressure. I'm neither impressed by your wealth nor concerned with your social standing. Perhaps that's what really bothers you." She stood, smoothing her dress. "I have a meeting. Don't wait up." Alex watched her leave, that familiar mix of frustration and fascination churning in his gut. In the business world, he could break anyone, bend them to his will through money or power or sheer force of personality. But Emily Bennett Kingston was proving to be unbreakable. Later that night, unable to sleep, he found himself standing in the doorway of her room. Emily was asleep, her reading glasses still on, a book about economic theory open on her chest. In sleep, her face was softer, peaceful. For a moment, he allowed himself to really look at her, not at her size, but at her. The strong line of her jaw, the slight smile that played on her lips even in sleep, the elegant length of her fingers resting on the book. She looked content, untroubled by the opinions of others, unafraid of taking up space in a world that constantly told her to be smaller. Something uncomfortable stirred in Alex's chest. He turned away abruptly, closing her door quietly. In his own room, he poured himself a scotch and stood at the windows, looking out at the city that had always bent to his will. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander Kingston was beginning to wonder if perhaps he was the one who needed to change. The thought terrified him. As winter descended upon New York, the power struggle between Alex and Emily intensified. Each day became a subtle battle of wills, with Alex growing increasingly desperate to assert some form of control over his unconventional wife. His first major offensive came through his social connections. At a high-profile charity gala, he deliberately seated Emily next to Manhattan's most notorious gossip columnists, expecting her to falter under their barbed questions and thinly veiled insults. Instead, she charmed them. "Your wife is absolutely delightful," Miranda Wells, editor of New York Style, told him later that evening. "Her insights on fashion industry economics were fascinating. Did you know she's developing a marketplace for plus-size luxury fashion? Brilliant concept." Alex's carefully crafted plan had backfired spectacularly. Again. His next attempt was more direct. He hired a renowned personal trainer to accidentally run into Emily at their building's gym. Emily simply smiled, thanked the trainer for his interest, and continued her own workout routine. "You know," she said to Alex that evening, "if you spent half as much energy actually getting to know me as you do trying to change me, this marriage might be less exhausting for both of us." Alex slammed his glass down on the marble counter. "Why won't you even try?" "Try what?" Emily looked up from her laptop, her voice dangerously calm. "Try to shrink myself? Try to become acceptable to your narrow worldview? Tell me, Alex, have you ever tried to understand why you're so obsessed with controlling how other people look?" Her words hit too close to home. Alex turned away, his knuckles white around his glass. "This isn't about me." "Isn't it?" Emily closed her laptop. You've built your entire identity around this perfect image. The perfect body, the perfect clothes, the perfect life. But what happens when something or someone challenges that perfection? You're trying to psychoanalyze me now. No, I'm trying to understand why a man as successful as you is so threatened by a wife who doesn't fit his ideal mold. The conversation was veering into dangerous territory. Alex could feel his carefully constructed walls trembling. He did what he always did when feeling vulnerable. He attacked. Perhaps I simply expect my wife to care about her appearance, to show some respect for herself and for me. Emily's laugh was bitter. Respect. You wouldn't know respect if it knocked you over. You confuse it with compliance. She stood, gathering her things. And for the record, I care very much about my appearance. I dress well, I carry myself with dignity, and I refuse to apologize for taking up space in your perfect world. She walked past him, then paused. Oh, and Alex? The next time you try to manipulate me through your social connections, remember that I have a PhD in game theory. You're not as subtle as you think. The next few weeks became a cold war of sorts. Alex used his influence to make Emily's work life more difficult. Mysterious cancellations of venue bookings, sudden withdrawal of donors from her non-profit. Emily responded by becoming even more visible in their social circle, her intelligence and charm winning over many of Alex's important business connections. At a crucial board meeting, she casually dismantled his argument for a hostile takeover with such economic precision that 3 board members switched their votes. Alex was livid. You humiliated me, he confronted her that evening. No, I challenged you professionally. There's a difference. Emily was calmly making tea in the kitchen. Your plan would have cost thousands of jobs. I simply pointed out a more sustainable alternative. It wasn't your place. As your wife, or as an economist, she turned to face him. Or perhaps you're angry because I proved I could match you intellectually without conforming to your physical ideals. Alex moved closer, trying to use his height to intimidate her. You're playing a dangerous game. No, Alex, I'm not playing at all. That's what frustrates you. She met his gaze steadily. Everything isn't a game or a deal or a power play. Sometimes it's just life, messy and imperfect and real. Something in her words, or perhaps her unwavering gaze, made Alex step back. He found himself studying her face, really looking at her. The intelligence in her green eyes, the strength in her jaw, the quiet confidence in her bearing. When had he started noticing these things? Why are you really here, Emily? He asked, his voice softer than intended. Why agree to this marriage? For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, pain perhaps, or a deeper purpose, but it was gone before he could be sure. Maybe I wanted to show you that your perfect world isn't so perfect after all, she said finally, or maybe I have my own reasons that you're not ready to understand. She picked up her tea and walked away, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts and a growing suspicion that he was missing something crucial about his wife. The next day, he found himself watching her more closely. The way she handled his staff with kindness, how she remembered everyone's names and stories, the passion with which she spoke about her work helping underprivileged women start businesses, the quiet dignity with which she handled the whispers and stares that still followed them in public. For the first time, he began to wonder if perhaps what needed changing wasn't Emily at all. But old habits die hard. At a dinner party that weekend, when a business rival made a snide comment about his brave choice in wives, Alex's instinct was to distance himself from Emily, to laugh along with the joke. The hurt that flashed across her face was brief but profound. She excused herself gracefully from the table, and Alex felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. Shame. Later that night, he found her in the penthouse library, reading by the window. I'm sorry, he said, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. Are you Emily didn't look up from her book? Sorry for what happened, or sorry that your perfect wife isn't so perfect after all? I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to defend you. Now she did look up, surprise briefly crossing her features. It was perhaps the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. Why does my size bother you so much, Alex? She asked quietly. What are you really afraid of? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications he wasn't ready to face. Instead of answering, he turned and left the library, feeling her eyes on his back. That night, sleep eluded him. Emily's question echoed in his mind, forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. Why did he need so desperately to control everything and everyone around him? What was he trying to prove, and to whom? The answers, he suspected, would change everything. The truth emerged on a cold December evening, 3 months into their marriage. Alex was in his home office, reviewing old acquisition files that his assistant had delivered, when a familiar name caught his eye: Bennett Associates. His blood ran cold as he read through the documents. 5 years ago, his company had orchestrated a hostile takeover of a small but respected financial consulting firm. The owner, Thomas Bennett, had committed suicide a week after losing his company, but Thomas Bennett, Emily's father. The paper trembled in his hands as memories flooded back. He remembered dismissing the news of the suicide as unfortunate, but not his problem. He remembered joking about how some men were too weak to survive in business. A soft knock at the door made him jump. Emily stood there, still in her work clothes, her face unreadable. I wondered when you'd find those files, she said quietly. I had my assistant deliver them this morning. Alex stared at her, realization dawning. You knew. All this time you knew. Of course I knew. Emily entered the office, closing the door behind her. I knew exactly who you were, Alexander Kingston, the man who destroyed my father's life's work without a second thought, the man who mocked him in the press, called him weak, incompetent. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes blazed with years of contained pain. Do you remember what you said when reporters asked about his suicide? The market has no room for sentimentality. If you can't handle the pressure, you shouldn't be in the game. Alex felt the ground shifting beneath him. Emily, Don't. She held up her hand. Don't try to apologize now. This isn't about apologies. This is about consequences. She moved to the window, looking out at the city lights. My father built that company from nothing. He helped small businesses stay afloat during the recession, often working pro bono. He believed in people over profits, and you destroyed him because you could, because it added a few million to your bottom line. Alex stood, moving toward her. If I had known what Emily turned to face him, known that he had a family, known that his daughter was a fat, worthless burden who couldn't help save the company, known that my mother would spend the next 5 years in and out of depression, what exactly would you have done differently? The bitterness in her voice cut through him like a knife. But there was more coming. Do you know why I'm really here, Alex? Why I agreed to this farce of a marriage? She stepped closer, her green eyes boring into his. Because I wanted you to feel what it's like to lose control, to have your perfect world disrupted by something you couldn't change or manipulate. Alex sank back into his chair, the weight of understanding crushing him. Will Crawford, he knew about all of this. Will Crawford was my father's godson. He watched you destroy our family. This bet wasn't just a game, Alex. It was justice. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's mind raced through the past 3 months, seeing every interaction in a new light. Emily's resistance to his control, her strategic moves in the business world, her unwavering confidence it had all been part of a larger plan. But there's more, Emily continued, her voice growing softer. Something you need to know about Sarah. Alex's head snapped up. What about my sister? Sarah Kingston. age 19. Died by suicide 3 years ago after years of struggling with her weight and body image issues. Emily's voice was gentle now, but each word struck like a hammer. She was in one of my support groups. The room seemed to spin. What? I run support groups for people struggling with eating disorders and body image, Emily explained. Sarah came to us 6 months before she died. She talked about her successful, perfect brother who was ashamed of her, who told her she just needed more willpower, more discipline. Alex felt as if he couldn't breathe. No, you're lying? She showed us the text messages, Alex, the ones where you told her she was embarrassing the family. Where you said she just needed to try harder, eat less, exercise more. Where you refused to attend her college graduation because you couldn't bear to see her like that in photos. The memories hit him like physical blows. All the times he'd pushed Sarah away, tried to force her to change, made her feel like she wasn't good enough. His perfect little sister, who used to look at him with such adoration, who just wanted his acceptance. I didn't, his voice broke. I never meant. No one ever means to break someone, Emily said softly. But our actions, our words, they have power. Every time you mock someone for their size, every time you make them feel less than human, you're contributing to a culture that kills people like Sarah. Alex buried his face in his hands, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Why are you telling me this now? Because you need to understand the real cost of your actions. Not just business losses or stock prices, but human lives. My father. Your sister. Countless others who've been crushed under the weight of impossible standards. She moved to stand beside him, and he felt her hand rest lightly on his shoulder. The question is, Alex, now that you know the truth, what are you going to do about it? He looked up at her, seeing her clearly perhaps for the first time. Not as a woman who didn't fit his ideal, but as someone who had survived tremendous pain and emerged stronger. Someone who had every right to hate him but was instead offering him a chance at redemption. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. You start by acknowledging the damage you've done, Emily replied, and then you work every day to be better, to use your power and influence for good instead of destruction. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Sarah's birthday is next week. She would have been 22. Maybe it's time you visited her grave. With that, she left him alone with the weight of his actions and the ghosts of those he had hurt. Alex stayed in his office until dawn, reading through old emails from Sarah, remembering her laugh, her dreams, her pain. For the first time in years, Alexander Kingston cried. The perfect world he had built was shattered, but perhaps he realized it needed to be broken for something real to grow in its place. The cemetery was quiet under a blanket of fresh snow. Alex stood before Sarah's grave, a bouquet of her favorite sunflowers clutched in his trembling hands. He hadn't been here since the funeral, had avoided this place like he'd avoided so many uncomfortable truths in his life. Sarah Kingston. Beloved daughter and sister. Her light remains forever. I'm sorry, he whispered, placing the flowers against the cold stone. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have been better. Should have been the brother you deserved. Unknown to him, Emily watched from a distance, her heart aching at the sight of his broken form kneeling in the snow. She hadn't planned to follow him, but something in his eyes that morning had drawn her here. For the first time since their marriage began, she saw real pain break through his perfect facade. Alex touched the gravestone gently, his fingers tracing his sister's name. Remember when you were little, he spoke softly. How you used to follow me everywhere, calling me your hero. What happened to that brother, Sarah? When did I become so cruel? Memories flooded back Sarah's sweet 16 birthday party, where he'd criticized her dress size instead of celebrating her joy. Her high school graduation, where his first comment had been about her weight rather than her achievements. The last text message she'd sent him, I just want you to be proud of me, Alex. Why isn't who I am enough? he hadn't replied. Emily moved closer, her footsteps crunching in the snow. Alex didn't turn around, but his shoulders stiffened at her presence. "She used to talk about you in group," Emily said softly. "About the brilliant older brother she adored. Even after everything, she never stopped loving you." "I didn't deserve her love," Alex's voice was raw. "I was supposed to protect her, to support her. Instead, I became her tormentor." "You can't change the past," Emily stepped closer, standing beside him. "But you can honor her memory by changing yourself." Alex looked up at her, his face stripped of its usual mask of confidence. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Live in a world that constantly tries to make you feel less than." "By remembering that my worth isn't determined by numbers on a scale or other people's expectations," Emily replied. "Sarah was learning that in our group. She was starting to believe in herself again." "Until I ruined it," Alex's voice broke. "That last time she reached out to me. She was excited about starting college, about making new friends. And I told her she should defer until she got her weight under control. That was 2 days before." He couldn't finish the sentence. Emily knelt beside him in the snow, not touching him, but offering her presence as witness to his grief. "Grief can destroy us or transform us," she said quietly. "The choice is yours, Alex." They sat in silence for a long moment, the winter wind whispering through bare trees. Finally, Alex spoke again, his voice stronger. "Tell me about her. About the Sarah you knew in your group." Emily smiled softly. She was funny. "Did you know that? She had this way of making everyone laugh, even on their darkest days. She was studying to be a counselor, wanted to help other people struggling with body image issues." Alex closed his eyes, fresh pain washing over his features. "She never told me." "She was afraid you'd mock her career choice, like you did her other dreams." The truth hurt, but Alex didn't flinch from it. What else? "She was an amazing artist. She showed us her sketchbooks, once full of beautiful drawings of people of all sizes, all celebrating their bodies instead of hiding them. She had such a gift for seeing the beauty in others, even when she struggled to see it in herself." Tears froze on Alex's cheeks as he listened, learning about the sister he'd never truly known. The sister he'd been too blind, too prejudiced to see. As they walked back to the car, Alex stopped suddenly. "I need to make this right," he said. "Not just with Sarah's memory, but with everyone I've hurt. Your father, you." Emily studied his face, searching for sincerity. "Change isn't easy, Alex. It requires more than just words or grand gestures." "I know, but I have to try. Will you? Will you help me?" The question hung in the air between them, fragile as a snowflake. Emily considered him carefully, seeing not the arrogant businessman who had made that cruel bet, but a broken man finally facing his demons. "Yes," she said finally, "but on one condition: you have to be completely honest, with me and with yourself. No more perfect facades, no more hiding from uncomfortable truths." Alex nodded, understanding the magnitude of what she was offering, not just help, but a chance at redemption. That evening, as they sat in the penthouse living room, Alex began the painful process of examining his life, his beliefs, his prejudices. Emily listened without judgment as he spoke about his own insecurities, his desperate need for control, his fear of imperfection. "I think," he said finally, "I've spent so long trying to be perfect that I forgot how to be human." Emily reached out, touching his hand gently, their first real moment of connection. "Then perhaps it's time to remember." But as they sat there, building the first fragile bridge of understanding between them, neither knew that their journey was about to face its greatest test. For while Alex was beginning his transformation, fate was preparing to deal them a cruel hand, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about strength, love, and sacrifice. Emily felt the first twinge of pain in her side, but she ignored it, focusing instead on the man before her who was finally, painfully learning to feel again. Some battles, she knew, would have to wait for another day. The diagnosis came on a bright January morning. Stage 3 ovarian cancer. Emily sat in Dr. Catherine Morgan's office, her hands perfectly still in her lap as she listened to words like aggressive treatment and survival rates. Her first thought wasn't of herself, but of her mother. How could she tell the woman who had already lost so much? "We need to start treatment immediately," Dr. Morgan was saying, her kind eyes concerned. "Your size may complicate some procedures, but we have experience with similar cases." Emily nodded, her mind already calculating, planning. "What's the prognosis if we start now?" "With immediate treatment, your chances are..." The door opened, interrupting them. Alex stood there, his face pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily turned, surprised. "How did you?" "Your assistant called me when you missed the board meeting." "Emily, why didn't you tell me about the symptoms?" Dr. Morgan looked between them. "I'll give you two a moment," she said, quietly leaving the room. Alex moved to sit beside Emily, his movements uncertain. The past few weeks since the cemetery had changed things between them, created a fragile trust neither fully understood. "I didn't want to worry anyone," Emily said finally. "Not until I knew for sure." "You're my wife." On paper. No, Alex's voice was firm. "You're my wife. And I'm not letting you face this alone." Emily looked at him, really looked at him. The arrogant mask was gone, replaced by genuine concern. When had that happened? "This isn't part of our arrangement," she said softly. "You don't have to." "Stop," Alex took her hand, surprising them both. "This isn't about arrangements or bets anymore. This is about you needing support, and me wanting to be there." The sincerity in his voice brought unexpected tears to her eyes. She blinked them away quickly, but not before Alex saw. "Let me help," he pleaded. "Please." Before she could respond, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen. She gasped, doubling over. Alex's arms were around her instantly, supporting her. "Dr. Morgan," he called out, his voice tight with fear. The next few days became a blur of tests, consultations, and difficult decisions. Alex threw himself into research, consulting specialists across the country. Emily watched him with a mixture of surprise and gratitude as he took charge of arrangements, handled insurance details, and somehow managed to make her feel cared for without being suffocating. Then came the morning sickness. At first they attributed it to the stress, to the early stages of treatment. But deep down, Emily knew. The confirmation from her doctor only verified what her body had already told her. She was pregnant. "This complicates things," Dr. Morgan said gently. "The pregnancy will make it impossible to proceed with the planned treatment protocol." Alex paced the consultation room. "Then we adjust the protocol. There must be alternatives." "The most aggressive treatments would harm the baby," Emily interrupted quietly. "And without aggressive treatment..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood the implications. "You can't seriously be considering keeping the pregnancy." Alex turned to her, his voice strangled. "Emily, you need treatment. Now." She looked up at him, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. "This might be my only chance to be a mother." "And what about your chance to live?" His voice cracked. "Please, Emily, don't do this." But she saw something in his desperation that he hadn't yet realized himself. "You care," she said softly. "Really care. When did that happen?" Alex stopped pacing, the truth of her words hitting him. When had this woman, whom he'd married on a bet, become so important to him? When had the thought of losing her become unbearable? "Of course I care," he whispered. "How could I not?" The admission hung between them, changing everything. That night, in the quiet of their penthouse, they really talked for the first time. Not about the pregnancy or the cancer, but about themselves. About how Alex's transformation had begun to change the way he saw her, how her strength had taught him what real beauty looked like. "I watch you," he admitted. "How you move through the world with such grace, such confidence. How you help others without expecting anything in return. You're the most beautiful person I've ever known, Emily, inside and out." She smiled through tears. "Careful, Mr. Kingston. That sounds dangerously close to love." He reached for her hand across the sofa. "Maybe it is." The moment was interrupted by another wave of pain. Emily winced, and Alex moved instantly to her side. "I can't lose you," he said fiercely. "Not now. Not when I'm finally learning how to truly see you." Emily leaned against him, allowing herself to draw strength from his presence. "I need you to understand something," she said quietly. "This baby, it's not just about being a mother. It's about leaving something good in the world. Something born of love, not revenge or pain." Alex held her closer, understanding finally dawning. "You're choosing hope." "Yes," she whispered. "Will you choose it with me?" He pressed a kiss to her forehead, his heart breaking and healing all at once. "Together," he promised. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Neither of them knew that their journey would soon test that promise in ways they couldn't imagine. But for now, they held each other in the quiet of their home, two people who had begun as enemies finding love in the shadow of loss. The second wedding of Alexander Kingston and Emily Bennett took place in the garden of her mother's modest home in Connecticut, a stark contrast to their first ceremonial union. This time there were no society photographers, no business associates, no ulterior motives, but just love, pure and profound, born from the depths of their shared struggles. Alex stood beneath an arch of white roses, his usual perfectly tailored suit replaced by a simple linen shirt and slacks. His eyes never left Emily as she walked toward him, radiant in a flowing dress that celebrated rather than concealed her body. Despite the subtle signs of her illness, the slight pallor of her skin, the careful way she moved, she had never looked more beautiful to him. "I have something to say," Alex announced, departing from their planned vows. He turned to face not just Emily, but their small gathering of guests. "4 months ago, I married Emily because of a bet. I thought I was superior, thought I could control and change her. I was wrong." His voice carried across the garden, strong with conviction. "Emily taught me that true beauty isn't about size or appearance. It's about the size of your heart, the strength of your character, the depth of your compassion. She showed me that my perfect world was actually empty, and her imperfect one was full of love and meaning." Tears streamed down Margaret Bennett's face as she watched her daughter and the man who had once been their enemy. Will Crawford stood nearby, his earlier hostility softened by the evident transformation he'd witnessed in Alex. "I stand here today," Alex continued, his voice thick with emotion, "not because of a bet or obligation, but because I love you, Emily, every part of you. Your brilliant mind, your generous heart, your unshakable spirit. You made me a better man. And I want to spend whatever time we have together showing you how grateful I am for that gift." Emily squeezed his hands, her own tears falling freely. "When I agreed to marry you," she said softly, "it was for revenge. I wanted to make you feel the pain you'd caused my family. But something unexpected happened. You changed. You learned. You grew, and in watching you transform, I found myself falling in love with the man you were becoming." She paused, gathering strength as another wave of discomfort passed through her. Alex steadied her, his support immediate and natural. "I don't know what the future holds," she continued, "but I know that facing it with you gives me courage. You're not just my husband on paper anymore, Alex. You're my partner, my strength, my love." The small gathering of guests wiped away tears as they exchanged rings, simple bands that meant more than all the expensive jewelry Alex had once tried to impress her with. The celebration that followed was intimate and joyful, though tinged with the awareness of Emily's condition. She tired easily now, but Alex was constantly at her side, anticipating her needs, making sure she rested when necessary. During a quiet moment, Will approached them. "I owe you both an apology," he said. "What began as a plan for revenge has become something I never expected, a lesson in redemption and love." Alex shook his head. "No apologies needed. You gave me the greatest gift of my life, even if your intentions were different." As evening fell, Emily's mother pulled Alex aside. "Take care of my girl," she whispered, her eyes full of both gratitude and fear. "With everything I have," he promised. The moment of crisis came sooner than anyone expected. During their first dance, Emily suddenly stiffened in Alex's arms, her face draining of color. Alex's voice was sharp with fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered, before collapsing against him. The next few hours were a blur of ambulance sirens, hospital corridors, and terrifying medical terms. Alex paced the waiting room, his newly discovered heart threatening to shatter. Dr. Morgan emerged from the emergency room, her face grave. "The cancer is progressing faster than we anticipated," she explained. "Combined with the pregnancy, it's putting tremendous strain on her body." "Save her," Alex pleaded. "Whatever it takes." "It's not that simple," Dr. Morgan said gently. "Emily has been very clear about her wishes. She wants to protect the baby at all costs. But she could die." "She knows that, Alex. She's made her choice." Alex slumped into a chair, his perfect world crumbling once again, but for entirely different reasons than before. This time he wasn't losing control, he was losing love. When he was finally allowed to see her, Emily lay pale but conscious in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily around her. She reached for his hand as he approached. "Don't be angry," she whispered. "How can I not be?" His voice broke. "You're choosing to leave me." "No," she touched his face gently. "I'm choosing to give life. Our child, Alex. A part of both of us. Something beautiful born from what started as revenge but became love." Alex pressed his forehead to hers, tears falling freely. "I can't lose you. I don't know how to be this better person without you." "Yes, you do," she smiled weakly. "You already are that better person, and our child will need you to be strong to continue being that man." As if in response to her words, the baby kicked. Emily guided Alex's hand to her stomach, letting him feel the movement of their child. In that moment, holding his wife's hand, feeling their baby move, Alexander Kingston finally understood what true strength looked like. It wasn't about control or power or perfect appearances. It was about love, sacrifice, and the courage to choose hope even in the darkest moments. Together, he whispered their promise. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Emily smiled, squeezing his hand weakly. "Together," she agreed. The following weeks transformed Alex's world in ways he never imagined. He sold his penthouse, liquidated investments, and leveraged every connection he had to get Emily the best supportive care possible while respecting her decision about the pregnancy. The man who once demanded perfection now spent his nights sleeping in a hospital chair, holding his wife's hand through waves of pain. Mr. Kingston, Dr. Morgan pulled him aside one morning. "There are experimental treatments available in Switzerland. They're expensive, but they might help manage the cancer while protecting the pregnancy." Alex didn't hesitate. "Book the flights. Whatever it costs." "It's not just about money," she cautioned. "The success rate is uncertain, and the treatment is extremely demanding." "Emily's stronger than anyone I know," Alex said firmly. "She can handle it." When he presented the option to Emily, she studied his face carefully. "You'd give up everything. Your company, your position, your perfect life." "None of that matters anymore," he took her hand, pressing it to his heart. "You showed me what really matters, Emily. Let me show you that I learned the lesson. They flew to Switzerland the following week, leaving behind the glittering world of Manhattan for a quiet clinic nestled in the Alps. Emily's mother and Will Crawford promised to manage things back home, including the foundation Alex had started in Sarah's memory to help people struggling with body image and eating disorders. The treatments were brutal. Emily fought through endless rounds of carefully calibrated medications, each designed to battle the cancer while protecting their growing child. Alex never left her side, learning to massage her swollen feet, read medical charts, and advocate fiercely with doctors when needed. One evening, as snow fell softly outside their clinic window, Emily watched Alex helping her with her medication schedule. "You've changed so much," she observed. He looked up, his designer clothes long replaced by comfortable sweaters, his perfectly styled hair now casually tousled. "You changed me." "No," she shook her head. "You changed yourself. You just needed someone to show you it was possible." A sharp kick from the baby interrupted them, making Emily wince and smile simultaneously. Alex placed his hand on her stomach, marveling at the strength of their child. "She's a fighter," he said softly. They'd learned it was a girl the week before. "Like her Aunt Sarah," Emily replied. "That's what we should name her, Sarah Margaret Kingston." Alex's eyes filled with tears. "Sarah," he repeated. "Yes, and she'll know everything about her aunt, the real Sarah, not just my twisted memories. She'll know about her grandfather Thomas too, and the legacy of kindness he left behind." Emily's face contorted in pain, and Alex reached for her immediately, helping her adjust position. The doctors had warned them that the combination of the pregnancy and cancer was putting immense strain on her body. "Promise me something," Emily said once the pain subsided, "if it comes down to a choice." "Don't," Alex interrupted. "Please don't ask me to choose." "Promise me you'll protect her," Emily continued firmly. "Promise me you'll raise her to be strong, to love herself, to know her worth isn't measured by a scale or society's standards." "I promise," he whispered, his heart breaking. "But you're going to be right here helping me keep that promise." Emily smiled sadly, touching his face. "My love, you've grown so much, but you still want to control everything, don't you? Some things are beyond our control." That night, Alex called Will Crawford. "She's getting worse," he said without preamble. "The treatments are helping, but the pregnancy is taking too much out of her. The doctors want her to consider termination." And Will's voice was gentle. "She refuses. Says she's finally creating something purely good, something born of love instead of revenge or manipulation." Alex's voice broke. "I can't lose her, Will. I don't know how to do this without her." "Maybe that's not your choice to make," Will replied. "Emily's choosing hope, Alex. The question is, can you be strong enough to support that choice?" The words hit him hard, echoing Emily's own teachings about control and acceptance. She had shown him a different kind of strength, not the brutal force of hostile takeovers and corporate power plays, but the quiet strength of choosing love over fear, hope over bitterness. The next morning, Alex wheeled Emily out onto the clinic's snow-covered terrace. The Swiss Alps rose majestically before them, their peaks glowing in the early light. "I understand now," he said quietly. "Understand what?" "Why you're doing this. Why you're choosing our daughter over everything else." He knelt beside her wheelchair. "You're creating something perfect, not perfect like I used to define it, but perfect in its truth, its purpose." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You do understand." "I promise you, Emily, our daughter will never doubt her worth. She'll never feel she has to change to be loved. She'll know she's perfect exactly as she is." "And you'll tell her about us." Emily's voice was weak but determined. "The whole story? Even the ugly parts?" "Everything," Alex promised. How her mother's strength transformed her father's weakness. How real love doesn't see size or status, only the truth of a person's heart. Emily leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. "I love you, Alexander Kingston. Not despite your flaws, but because you were brave enough to face them." A nurse appeared at the terrace door. "Mrs. Kingston, it's time for your treatment." Alex helped Emily back inside, his heart both heavy and somehow lighter. He couldn't control what was coming, but he could be strong enough to face it with the same grace and courage Emily had shown him. That night, as Emily slept fitfully, Alex wrote 2 letters, one to his unborn daughter, telling her the full story of her parents' journey from hatred to love, and one to Emily, promising to honor her legacy in every choice he made going forward. The battle wasn't over, but something had shifted. In choosing to support Emily's decision rather than fight it, Alex found a different kind of peace. Whatever came next, they would face it together, with love instead of fear, hope instead of control. As dawn broke over the Alps, Emily stirred, reaching for his hand. "Together," she whispered. "Together," he promised, meaning it more deeply than ever before. Love doesn't see through society's narrow lens, but through the heart's infinite vision. True beauty isn't measured in pounds or inches, but in the depth of one's soul and the strength of one's character. Sometimes, our greatest pain becomes our greatest teacher. Alex's journey from judgment to love shows us that transformation is possible when we dare to face our own demons. Emily's story reminds us that strength isn't about having a perfect body, but having an unbreakable spirit. Life's most powerful lessons often come wrapped in unexpected packages. What began as revenge blossomed into redemption. What started as a cruel bet became a testament to unconditional love. True happiness isn't found in controlling others or meeting society's standards. It's found in accepting ourselves and others exactly as we are. In choosing love over judgment, hope over bitterness, and courage over fear. Emily didn't need to change her body to be worthy of love. She needed someone to change their heart to see her worth. And in teaching Alex to truly see her, she helped him see himself. The greatest gift we can give another person is the permission to be authentically themselves. The greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to love without conditions. Remember, you are not too much. You are not too big. You are not too different. You are exactly who you're meant to be. Your worth isn't measured by numbers on a scale, but by the love in your heart and the lives you touch. In the end, we all have choice to judge or to understand, to control or to accept, to fear or to love. Choose love. Always choose love, because love in its purest form sees past all barriers, heals all wounds, and transforms even the hardest hearts. You are perfect, not despite your imperfections, but because of them. They make you real, they make you human, they make you beautiful. Let your light shine exactly as you are. The right people will see your beauty without needing you to change a thing. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of unconditional love. Your comments mean the world to us. Let us know how this story resonated with you. Together, let's spread hope and remind everyone that true beauty comes in all sizes.